Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Thank you for listening to episode 279. This week we have aging politicians, aliens, the impeachment dance, the plea that wasn't, a diminutive thief, Jason bends the knee, the Kansas two-step, a mugshawty, the final frontier, getting maced, the Beau who got his rank back, and a Raffy dogpile. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, Representative Emeritus and world traveler Ken Pullen.
Hey, Dave. How are you this week?
Hot, man. It's hot.
Yeah, Kansas City. I was out there for a conference, and it was, I think, hotter than Georgia. I was shocked it was so hot.
Yeah, man. And look, I wait for this all year long, and then while it's 100 degrees, I piss and moan about it for 3 months.
For some reason, I thought Kansas City would be cooler than Atlanta, but it wasn't.
No, man, I told you that the hottest summer I've ever spent, and I'm from Florida, and I've been in a lot of hot places, was Missouri in the summertime. Missouri in July and August.
Just terrible. Yeah, it was so hot. Nobody was outside walking around. Everybody was inside up underneath the air conditioner.
Yeah, you said you didn't even get barbecue until the last day there.
Yeah, I did get a little barbecue the last day, which was absolutely delicious. So I was very impressed by the barbecue.
Yeah, and you killed multiple animals.
Yeah, I think I had pulled pork, sausage, and burnt ends. So it was very good.
Yeah, the picture you said looked great.
Yeah, it was amazing. Some baked beans, potato salad. Potato salad was really good. I had a couple cold beverages with it also, so it was really good.
I don't suppose you got a chance to go to the Royals. I don't know if they're in town.
Yeah, I don't think they were playing in town. And the ballparks are not downtown. I didn't see the Royals ballpark or the where Kansas City plays either. So they must be outside of town a little bit.
Well, the Brave Stadium is outside of town.
I know it is now. Yeah, I used to like on the south side.
It's not far.
Yeah, the south side ballpark was easier on us South Atlanta people.
Yeah, until you have to go to your car at night.
Wasn't terrible. Yeah, I looked. Atlanta's in town. Well, I mean, the Atlanta's in town, I guess, the last 3 days when this drops on Monday. But it looks like all the games over the weekend are all sold out. So people are really going out to the Braves. And I haven't looked at the Braves stock. Have you, since it went public a couple of weeks ago?
I looked at it on Thursday, and I think it was down to 38 or 39. It opened around 46.
It's 45.28 now. It's up 3%.
Okay, as of recording Friday afternoon?
Yeah, so as of Friday afternoon, it's up 3%.
Good. Did you buy?
I didn't.
I'm going to. I'm going to buy at least 10 shares.
Yeah, I might buy a little bit. I've been watching the stock market. It's been on fire lately. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of the listeners pay attention, but we had great economic news come out this week. It doesn't look like we're going towards a recession any longer. That's sort of the consensus out there, and the stock market has been on a tear. It's been up actually 3 weeks in a row now.
Well, Jerome Powell,
it's hot.
Yeah, Jerome Powell bumped the Fed funds rate another 0.25% last week.
Yep.
Which brings, I think, prime rate is now 8.5.
Yeah, and I mean the housing market is just almost came to a crawl or stop at this point. No one wants to trade in their 2.5 or 3% 30-year interest rates for 8% 30-year interest. It's I can't wait to see what this does to the housing market over the next couple of years.
Well, you're not going to see it as much in the South, I don't think. And I'll tell you why. Even at 5-6% interest rates or 7% interest rates, whatever they end up being, when you move from California and you sell a $3 million house and move to Georgia and realize you can get the same house for $500,000.
Yeah, I think that's what's kept our rates. I think that's what has kept the housing market up in Georgia, though, is there's been so many people that have moved from the West Coast and even the Northeast that a $500,000 or $600,000 house, they're paying cash for a lot of these homes.
Yeah, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida.
Yep. I mean, in my area, we've got trailers, like single wide trailers on 5 acres. They're going for, $225,000. Now, I don't think anyone from California is moving to Podunk, Georgia, to buy a single wide trailer for $225, but it just shows.
No, but they'll pay $225 for the land.
Yep, and build another home. Yeah, and I think that's what some of this is going on.
Yeah, or you'll get a developer. It depends on your P&Z board and all that stuff, but get a developer and buy it and split it up into 5 1-acre lots and put up 5 single-family houses.
Yep, exactly.
It just depending on, obviously, not every piece of property with 5 acres is usable. I think it may be more so where you are. You may have some more flat land, but up here in the foothills, you may get a 5 or 10 acre piece of land that only 1 acre is usable. Everything else is straight up or down.
Yep.
Without terraforming or whatever it is. So we've got. Is it time for an age limit on politicians?
I know. What a great time to talk about this topic. Last week, a couple of really big stories came out. Senator Mitch McConnell, who's a Republican from Kentucky, was given an update to the media and just absolutely froze for 19 seconds. And you saw this, Dave. I mean, he just didn't lose his train of thought and kind of look around. He just froze. There was not any movement going on.
Well, yeah, anybody who's had on the Mac, I call it the pinwheel of death. Mm-hmm. It's a spinning color pinwheel that keeps going around and around and around when something's wrong with your hard drive. Yep. Same thing with a Windows thing. When you have the hourglass keep going around. That's what was going on in his brain. And then finally, a couple of senators saved him, like Mitch.
I know. Finally moved in after 19 seconds because it was a really awkward silence.
Yeah,
Mitch, and they called him. I thought that was one of the most unique things, though, Dave, is how they refer to him as Mitch. So they didn't refer to him as Senator McConnell or Leader McConnell. They said Mitch.
Well, these are other senators that were standing there with him.
I know, but it was even when I was in the House, like Speaker Ralston, you would never refer to him as David. You wouldn't refer to current Speaker as his name. But it's almost like they knew something was terribly wrong with him, and they went. They didn't call him by his elected name. They were really concerned, and they called him by his first name. It just really struck because no one would call Speaker Ralston David. I saw one person do that one time.
There's also only 100 senators.
Yeah, but I know. But somebody called Speaker Ralston one time David, an intern did, and he looked at her and said, "That'll be the last time." He said, "Make sure that's the last time you ever call me David," which was a kind of a jackass move by him. But it's a respect title, and I was just kind of taken aback when they called him Mitch.
Ah, man, I look with John Burns. If you came up with him, Speaker Burns, I'm telling you, to his best friends at Speaker Burns. I don't care if they see him on a golf course, church, fishing. It's Speaker Burns. So when I want to run into him next week, I shouldn't just call him Johnny.
Speaker Burns, and Speaker Burns is a super nice guy.
I've heard nothing but good things about him.
Yeah, I mean, if you call him John next week, he'll be fine with that. But it's just
he would be fine. I wouldn't do it.
Yes, right. It's you pay. So respect.
I've been introduced to our sheriff many times. I still don't refer to him by his first name. I still say sheriff. How you doing?
I play golf with the sheriff all the time. I call him sheriff. I don't think I ever call him by his first name. But Mitch McConnell. Getting back to the story, Mitch McConnell, he has had a couple falls lately. He had a concussion earlier this year, so he's had 3 or 4 events that have occurred to him over the past 2 or 3 years. And you got to feel sorry for him. He's hanging in there. And we talked about this.
Yeah, and you said earlier off air that he has been a pretty good standard bearer for the Republican Party, blocking the extreme picks for the Supreme Court and pushing through people like Gorsuch.
Yes, I think if you look back at the history of Mitch McConnell. Look, I think this group of senators, this older group of even senators, representatives, have done a severe injustice to the people in the United States because they've run up the budget. I mean, look at the amount of the national debt that has occurred up under Mitch McConnell. It's been, unbelievable, right? Probably $25 million is or $25 trillion has gone up under him. But just from what legacy he leaves, and from a Supreme Court perspective, I mean, he blocked, like you said, Obama's nominee, and he ushered in 3 Trump nominees to Supreme Court, and that's going to live on for 30, 40 years potentially. So
yeah, and look, it's sad to watch.
It is, and
it really is. It's sad to watch Biden. Biden was never the sharpest tack.
No.
He made gaffes going way back.
Yep.
But you see what's going on, and one, it's embarrassing as an American. And we have somebody else that, you and I don't agree with politically, but Dianne Feinstein.
Yep.
She really was groundbreaking. She did a lot for her party, and what's going on with her now at 90 years old is just sad.
It is. And, if people don't know the backstory to this, they were in a appropriations committee meeting this week, and her aides are telling her when it came to her time to vote, they were just saying, vote aye on this particular measure. And then she starts giving a speech on it. Didn't know what she's talking about, and the aides kept jumping in saying, just vote aye, just vote yes. And it was really sad to watch.
And she's got white on all 4 sides of her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
She has no idea what's going on. And finally someone leans over and says, just vote aye.
Yep.
She goes, and she looks at the microphone, vote aye? She goes, yes, aye.
I know.
At what point can you say that somebody else is making her votes for her?
Look, and this is what I go back to, because the original topic was like, is it time for an age limit on politicians? It's hard to look. We've got an age limit on when you can run for office, so you can't run for Georgia Senate until 25. I don't know what the U.S. Senate is. So we've got age limits on when
36, I think.
Yeah, 36, right? So we've got age limits on the lower end on when you can run for office. Is it truly time to say once you reach a certain time or a certain age, you cannot run for office again? You can finish the current sentence or your current one, but you cannot run for office again. And look at corporations all across America. They have times where when their CEO gets to a certain age, they have to retire. They have to retire at 60 or 65, and it's because the mind just doesn't stay sharp as it once was. So I'm not sure we shouldn't get to the point where politicians should have to retire at a particular age limit.
Well, I would say cognitive ability, because Fetterman is nowhere near the age, but he's an empty vessel.
Yeah, he's an empty vessel. That's another very sad situation.
Yeah, I mean, the guy had a stroke, and they kept running him, and put him out front. He had no idea what's going on, but you have someone in front of the cameras leaning over and telling the senior senator from the most populous state in the nation how to vote.
Yep. And see, in most of these states, if a senator retires, before the election comes up again, the governor appoints their replacement. It happened in Georgia a few years ago. In Pennsylvania, Fetterman stepped down. They've already got a Democrat governor, which would just replace Fetterman with another Democrat. California, the same way. They would replace Feinstein with another candidate. Now, up in Kentucky,
but not the candidate that Pelosi wants.
A Democrat.
Right, but not the Democrat Pelosi wants.
So it would be totally different up there.
Right. So they would end up with a very Georgia situation where
they would.
Newsom would appoint somebody that is so out of the mainstream,
yep,
so unrelatable and so unpopular that it'd be tough, but it would give Republicans a chance to come in, because his pick would be, and we already know that it'd be a female of color. Yes. She would be hammered in the primary, and the primary would be so bloody that it might allow a Larry Elder to sneak in.
Yep.
Not that I mean, Elder's trying to run for president. I suppose he just has some campaign cash he wants to get rid of. I have no idea why Elder's running for president.
That's what it looks like.
A lot of these guys, that's what it looks like. But it really is sad. But you have Biden out there saying he cured cancer.
Yeah, he did. Just this week.
I mean, and no one's calling him on it.
That's the saddest thing. No one's calling these people on any of this stuff.
And the press secretary, I don't like her, but I also don't envy what she has to do.
No, she's got the hardest job in politics.
I mean, she's got to stand up there every day. And truthfully, 90% of the reporters in that room are friendly.
Yep.
That you have Fox News and a couple other outlets that are going to be a little more, I won't say hostile, but combative on some of the stuff. And she dances around stuff. She denies it. She says, well, what the president means to say is what he actually said. If you go back to his comments, what she's lying is we're working on defeating cancer. And she doesn't get called on it. She says it. And then if you're watching a conservative outlet, they'll go back to the tape and say, well, this is what she said and this is the truth, and show the two tapes. And that's it. The only people who hear it are in an echo chamber.
Yep.
So there's no repercussions to is it Lapierre? I can't remember what her name is. There's no repercussions to her lying because the Republican base already doesn't like Joe Biden, doesn't like her, so it doesn't matter. No, and the Biden base doesn't care.
Nope.
They're going to continue to vote whichever way is blue. And it's amazing to me that no one's calling anything out. And then we get, by the way, they did change their stance on Biden knowing about his son's business, because now they say he was never in business with his son, when they said before he had no idea.
They've changed. Yeah, they've changed their tone on that.
And no one besides conservative Newsmax, Fox News, and those types of people are calling her out on it. Mm-mm. Or calling them out on it.
Nope.
But we did get Biden blew up his plea deal.
Yes.
Hilarious. The judge asked, does this imply, does this give immunity for all future charges? And the prosecutor basically said, hell no. The investigation is ongoing. And the defense attorney said, we'll tear up the agreement. We plead not guilty.
No, that's crazy. So this judge was appointed by President Trump, and it sounded like she thought she was kind of being bamboozled or having just a rubber stamp this deal. When she started asking questions about the plea arrangement, like you just said, it just completely fell apart this week or last week.
Now, what he could have done is go ahead and plead out to the 3 charges he had and then go worry about the rest of the investigations.
Yep. But what they're trying to do, though, is they were trying to say, so he didn't pay his taxes, which is a jailable offense. And then he purchased this gun when he's on drugs, which is another thing. They asked the press secretary this week, does Biden support the maximum penalty for people that are, buy or purchase handguns illegally? And she wouldn't answer that question either.
It's perjury. He lied on his 4473.
And then they're still investigating him for all this foreign peddling of money back to his dad. And they were trying, in this plea deal, what it sounded like was happening is they put this plea together, said he couldn't be prosecuted for any of this stuff in the future. And that's when the judge started questioning that. She's like, well, does this mean he can't be prosecuted for any of the foreign intelligence or foreign money transfers that was going on? And then she said, is that investigation still ongoing? And the Justice Department said yes. And she said, well, this doesn't jive, right? Something's not making sense here.
Right. So the plea deal's gone.
Plea deal's gone.
Now I'm sure they're going to try to work on another one. But I'm going to tell you something. He admitted in court that he did take money.
Yes, he did.
So at this point, the government has a prima facie case. Yeah. So there's not a whole. If they get him on the tax evasion, that's a jailable offense. Now look, taxation's theft. If he came in and said screw taxes, screw the IRS, yeah, at least I'd be like, okay, that's a person of virtue. That's not. It's like, no, everybody else needs to pay their taxes, but I didn't. But of course I couldn't, because it was dirty money. I would have been happy to declare it if I wasn't taking it under the table.
Yep. And the gun offense is definitely a jailable offense. And we hear Democrats talk all the time about guns and purchase them legally. And look, they're totally being. This is ridiculous for them to defend Biden or even President Biden defend his son on this. He should. He
threw it away in a trash can.
His girlfriend threw it away in a trash can though because she was worried that he was going to use it.
In a trash can.
It's like across from a daycare also.
One thing, if you took it apart and you dropped the barrel one place, the slide one place, the magazine one place, and,
right.
and the frame somewhere else, or throw it off a bridge into the water.
Yep.
I mean, have they never seen a mob movie ever?
You think he had tape around the handle?
Good God.
Yes.
So from the zombies on Capitol Hill, now we have aliens on Capitol Hill. And not the ones crossing the border.
What is going on in Washington this previous week? I mean, truly amazing. They had this really bipartisan hearing on UFO sightings and aliens that potentially the government has covered up over the last 60, 70 years.
It's either now. Look, the witnesses they have are credible. These are not crackpots. These are not guys.
No, there's people that worked in the government. These are whistleblowers, right?
Yeah, these are credible people. These are stories that we've heard in the past. I've heard several theories on it. One was, and this was from an author I listened to on Rogan, saying that the bodies were distorted by this technology. That's why they looked alien. That they were trying these hypersonic vehicles, and with the wreckage, the radiation did something to the bodies, whatever. But there seems to be a consensus that there was a crash, that there were as they call it, biologics found. Yeah,
biologics found, and they were not human. That's what the guy testified. And the guy that testified this week, his name was David Grush, who used to work, in the government, which is whistleblower now. But yeah, he said they recovered crashed vehicles.
Why are aliens such bad drivers?
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, I think there's probably aliens somewhere out there. I don't think the galaxy can be this big and not have life somewhere out there. I just sort of refuse to believe that. But the other part of me says, if you're going to fly millions of miles to Earth in these really advanced, like space shuttles, you're flying millions of miles and you just crash on the Earth. I'm not sure I believe that part of it.
Yeah, look, I don't know. There's so much Hollywood stuff that has to be separated from any sort of fact.
Yes.
Do we know that out of that area of Groom Lake, do we know that there are experimental aircraft coming out of there? Of course we know that.
Yep.
If you go back to 50 years ago, all these V-shaped craft that they saw coming over the mountains and stuff, what turned out to be the B-2 bomber.
Yep. I really cannot imagine the type of technology that they're building there. Like you just said, as advanced as all the planes are that we see, I can't imagine what these companies are out there working with the government on.
Sure. There are people who sit in rooms, do nothing but think crap up.
Yep, exactly.
And they go, okay, here's $100 million, see if it's viable.
Yep.
What I did find funny was, where do you get the funding from this? Well, if we go into a closed session, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Like, damn.
No, he said that a couple times, right? It's funny. There was a poll generated a few years ago that said 68% of Americans believe the U.S. government does know more about UFOs than it is sharing with the public. And they said 33% of the polled U.S. adults believe that some of the UFO sightings have, in fact, been extraterrestrial. So 33% of the U.S. adults believe there's some UFOs out there and they're not from Earth. I don't know if I'm in that 33 or 67 percentile. I kind of go back and forth.
Oh, look, man, I love the X-Files too.
I do too.
The idea of a of a pseudo-governmental alien conspiracy makes for a great plot.
Yep.
Because there are two things that we don't trust. One are aliens, and two is our government. I mean, it was brilliant. That's why they had several movies, and the TV show went on for well over a decade, and it's still in syndication somewhere. Because it really hits that nerve. Plus, both men and women had something to look at. We had Gillian Anderson, and the women had David Duchovny. I mean, it was perfect. Husband and wife can both ogle and enjoy the idea that the government is stealing from us and keeping secrets.
I started watching that show again a few years ago. It was still a good show to go back and watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's not much to say on the Biden impeachment other than they started an investigation. We're not going to spend any time on it. There is no impeachment right now. There's simply an investigation.
It is. But I mean, Democrats are, look, you did the same thing to Trump over a phone call. Will they impeach President Biden? I don't think Republicans have the stones to do that. But Democrats, Democrats will go after anybody.
They can't, even if they had 55 senators, 55, 45.
But I think they've got the votes in the House to probably impeach him in the House. It just would never go in the Senate.
Right. It'd be, all it is wasting the people's time and money.
It is.
If you can't convict, why bother?
Yep.
So anyway, speaking of convictions or investigations, we had the diminutive car thief, 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a story down in Griffin, Georgia, where I live. So last week, there was a 12-year-old boy. He's been charged with 84 counts of entering auto and an additional 5 counts of criminal trespass. And they say more charges are pending. This is a 5th or 6th grade kid that has got 84 counts against him now. And just truly amazing. Very, very sad situation down here in Griffin.
It doesn't matter if they have 500 counts on them. They can't hold him more than 6 years.
No, I mean, that's it. This was really interesting because the story sort of went national this week. I saw this on quite a few outlets about this 12-year-old car thief in Griffin. One of my friends that's in the state house, Scott Hilton, he represents the Peachtree Corners area. I had forgotten about this, but he said that's why they really passed SB 44 last year, which was a bill backed by Governor Kemp. That was what they call the Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. So what the thought is gangs around Georgia, and Griffin's got 2 or 3 or 4 gangs. I mean, we've got the Bloods, the Crips. There's a Mexican gang down in Griffin. What these gangs are doing is recruiting very young kids like this 12-year-old to do these robberies and break-ins because they know nothing will happen to the kid. Like you said, I mean, he'll be out in a few years or he won't even be prosecuted. So this bill that was passed last year was really pointed at if the gangs are recruiting these young kids, then if they find out who did it, they can go to jail for even more time for recruiting minors.
If
they find out who it is. I mean, I don't even know how they find it out with so many gang members.
Well, you'd have to get the kid to roll over.
Yes, you would. Yep.
And I guarantee you the kid is more scared of the gang than he is of juvie.
Oh, he's terrified. I mean, look, this 12-year-old, his parents are probably 30 to 40 years old. Everybody knows who his parents are. I mean, no doubt the 12-year-old's probably not talking because he's probably going to slap on the wrist. I mean,
not just that.
I don't know.
He goes into juvie with gang cred.
Right.
I mean, do you think he's going to have a hard time in juvie? No. No. He's going to walk in there untouchable. And he'll do his 6 years. He may or may not get a GED or high school diploma. And he'll waltz out and he will have had an education on how to run a gang and come out at 18 years old and have a Harvard level education how to be a gangster.
Yeah, I have no clue what you do with a 12-year-old like this. I mean, I really don't. I think you first throw his parents in jail because they're obviously useless. But yeah, what else do you do with a kid like this? There's no future for this kid. It's like you said, he's coming out at 18 and with not a good future in his.
I don't know. I mean, you go and you throw him in jail in Alaska.
Yeah, I just don't know what you do. I really don't.
And I don't know, because these gangs have such long reach.
Mm-hmm. They do.
That you can't put him anywhere you put him in the country. He's going to flash a sign and give his cred, and he'll be welcomed into whatever chapter. I mean, it's like a really perverted, sick version of the VFW or American Legion. No matter which post you go into, you give them your credentials and you're welcomed in.
Yep. Now, look, we're assuming there's a big assumption here. This kid was in a gang. None of that's come out yet, but I can't imagine this kid just went out and broke in people's cars without any guidance from somebody.
A car.
Yeah.
A car.
Yeah. I think it's coming out that this kid was in one of the gangs in Griffin. We just don't know which one yet.
Well, there's a group of people going around opening accounts and committing fraud on them. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're using 18 to 20-year-old kids to do it because they have no credit history.
Right.
So their account's going to get approved. And what they're doing is they're putting the minimum deposit in. They're waiting the minimum amount of time till it's no longer considered a new account. And then they start running fraudulent checks through it. And well, the checks themselves aren't fraudulent. What they're doing is it's called check washing. They're mm-hmm. taking the amount and the maker and changing the name and the amount on the check. And then they're running these checks through. And by the time they get, and because everything else in the check reads right, it may take 30 days for that check to come back.
Yep.
And as soon as it's yeah, as soon as it becomes available, they're at the ATM, pop. They're on Cash App, pop, gone. And it's a repeatable pattern. And in fact, what I'm hearing is they're opening in the same location. They all live in the same location. They all have different names and different addresses, but they all live in the same general area. All opening the accounts in the same general area, and all cashing the checks in a different general area. So there's a pattern there. But what's happening is they're getting dropped off. They're walking into the branches so the cameras don't get license plate numbers. Mm-hmm. And then if the money doesn't come in the first 5 minutes while the bankers are talking, like this check doesn't look good, they're making phone calls. They just simply go, hey, I need to go grab something from my car, and they go out the door and just walk away and just go because they have nothing to lose. And it's older people taking not old people, but the older people taking advantage because they know these folks have no history. Even if they're caught, they'll get a slap on the wrist and told, don't do that again.
Yep.
As a first-time offender. All right, so Jason Aldean apparently caves to BLM. I didn't see this until you put it on the outline.
Yeah, so Jason Aldean is, the Try That in a Small Town song, which went crazy last week. We talked about it on the last show. This week, they very quietly edited the video to remove images of a Black Lives Matter demonstration. So I thought that was very interesting that the actual video lost about 6 seconds of it. When people started looking at it, that's what they removed.
And who is they?
I mean, just people watching the video.
No. I mean, who? I mean, was it Aldean that removed it? Was it?
Yeah,
is it YouTube that removed it?
Well, I mean, it was. I'm pretty sure it was Aldean's group. I mean, it's his video. I don't think it can be edited necessarily outside of him. I think it was approved by them. But yeah, it's a little bit shorter now. I don't know why they'd remove Black Lives Matter demonstration though. I mean, everybody knows that's what was occurring during COVID and all the demonstrations that were out there.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Sure. I think the whole thing is a tempest in a teacup.
Yes.
The song's not good.
It's not.
I think the song was out for 3 or 4 months or something like that before CMT brought it down. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think it got any airplay.
No,
because it's not a good song. There are a few patriotic songs that are good. A lot of them feel forced, like they sat down and go, I'm going to write a patriotic song.
Yep.
And of course, Aldean didn't write it. He picked the song up and recorded it, which was good for the people who wrote the song. They're making a ton of money, and Aldean's making a ton of money. It's been number one on iTunes and all that stuff. Good for him. But it's not a good song. I listened to it, and people are all, it's red meat for that crowd. Oh yeah, but
totally. I like the patriotic song that Trump comes out to. Now that is a pretty cool moment when he comes out to, the song he comes out to. I'm glad to be an American where at least I know.
Oh, Lee Greenwood, God bless the USA.
Yeah, Lee Greenwood, God bless USA. Great song he comes out to. have. That's kind of a really cool moment when Trump does walk out of that. What's not cool is when he talks for 2 hours about the election, but yeah, that's one of the best ones.
No, the best was Born in the USA, which was a protest song, and Reagan kited that sucker. And
Right.
it starts playing it. And like, if you listen to the words, the whole idea is, I don't want to be in Southeast Asia. I was born in the USA. Send me home.
Yep.
And so Reagan just takes it and runs with it. And every one of his campaign events, Born in the USA. People are cheering. And meanwhile, Bruce is over there just steaming.
Yep, I have no
Just
clue what it's
furious
really about.
mad.
Yep.
So, no more two-step in Kansas. This is an interesting story. I think Eric sent this to us. Kansas has gotten in the habit, because of where they're located, and they're surrounded by states that allow pot.
Pro-pot
That
states,
they were-
or legal pot states. Yep.
Yeah, they were getting in the habit of pulling over people with out-of-state tags, and then starting to interview them, and then bring dogs out to try to find if anybody's leaving Colorado or whatever with weed. And of course, they're also looking for cash for civil asset forfeiture,
Yep.
and which they even have cash sniffing dogs now, which I think is absolutely repugnant.
No, I know. That is terrible.
That's a roadside stick up.
It is. This story's interesting. So they would pull the people over for a legal stop. They may be speeding, but then they would prolong the stop is what the problem is, right? So they would start asking questions about travel plans without any reasonable suspicion of criminal activity just because you've got a Colorado tag. Now, I don't know why I don't get pulled over often, but if I do, I'm the politest guy ever because I want to try to get out of the ticket. But I don't understand why people start just kind of diarrhea at the mouth and start answering all these questions. Like, where are you going? Where are you coming from? That doesn't need to be answered. That's not the, you don't need to answer those questions. You don't need to tell anybody where you're going or where you came from.
I'm leaving your house, heading for your mom's house.
You just don't need to say that. You just
don't say anything.
Shut up. You be nice. And you take your ticket and you go on. You move on.
No, what my go-to is, I don't discuss that on the side of the road.
Right. Yeah, but getting back to the story, this federal judge this week ruled that practice of detaining drivers without reasonable suspicion is unconstitutional. So they can't do that anymore. Now, look, there's going to be some way that they get around that ruling, I'm assuming. But I've always been told, when you're pulled over beside the road, they can't keep you longer than it's reasonable to, write you your tickets. If you get a speeding ticket, if it takes 5 or 10 minutes, that's 5 or 10 minutes. But you can't just say, okay, I've got a dog coming and a dog's going to be 30 minutes away, because that's keeping you detained for an unreasonable period of time.
Right. Well, I don't know. First of all, I don't like canine searches at all.
Because they always hit. They always hit on something.
Well, they can be prompted to hit also.
Yes, right.
Remember,
exactly.
The dog doesn't know it's looking for drugs. The dog wants its toy.
Yes, it wants to please its owner.
Right. The dog wants that reward.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't use food like I've always trained my animals with treats and stuff like that, but they don't use food. They use a toy and encouragement. So the dog wants to please it. So if they keep tapping this wheel well, keep tapping the trunk, well, the dog's going to go, well, this is obviously he wants me to sit. So I'm going to sit, get my toy, get my hugs and all that stuff.
Get back in the air conditioning in the car.
Get back in the, especially in the planes, right? So I'm not a big fan of using dog searches as probable cause, especially considering that marijuana and other cannabinoids that are completely legal smell exactly the same.
Yep.
And the dog will hit on hemp just like it hits on pot.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
So it takes a lab which is why even in Georgia, less than an ounce of weed is basically legal, because most municipalities are not going to spend the time and money to send a joint off to the FBI, to the GBI lab for verification that it actually has THC.
Not unless you self-incriminate yourself. That's really the only way now to get pulled over or get a ticket for small amounts of weed, like you just said, because there's not enough time or money to send all this off to the crime lab.
Well, just like you said, you're plotted, and I'm plotted anyway. Plotted on the side of the road. But here's the thing: if I see a mugshot come across and it says possession less than an ounce of marijuana, I'm like, that guy was an a-hole.
Right, exactly.
He was given plenty of opportunities to not be an a-hole, and he decided to be an a-hole, and he got arrested for a small amount of weed because it is still technically illegal. Even if they don't get it tested, he's going to spend the night in jail for being an a-hole,
which is painful.
I wouldn't know, Kenny.
Which kind of leads us into the mugshot in our next story, right?
It does. This I love this story so much. All right, so Kentucky co-ed has been arrested 11 times with mugshots, and she takes great mugshots. I mean, she's a pretty girl anyway, but she takes great mugshots, and it's reminiscent of back, I think, 10 years ago. Remember the guy who was arrested, the really light-skinned guy with pale blue eyes and a teardrop tattoo, and all the girls were gaga over him.
Right.
And next thing you know, he's walking a runway in Milan, just from a mugshot. So she didn't know this was going on, but she was put on mugshawties. I think it's HAWTIES.
I had no clue that was a site.
Yeah, it was mughotties. No, some mugshotties.
Okay,
MUGSHAUTY, I think. Mugshotties. Mm-hmm. And she said, and I sent the interview to you. She did an interview on the Greg Gutfeld show.
Yeah, what had her on the show, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, for her, absolutely. And she's a beautiful girl, but the stuff she said, I mean, you could. I smiled. What was it? A 5-minute interview. I smiled the whole time.
I was smiling the whole time. She said so this girl has turned her life around now. She's 23 years old, but she's been busted from shoplifting to terrorism, just all kind of stuff. But she says she's turned her life around. But when Gutfeld asked her what she was on back in college, she said Xanax. And then he kind of chuckled and she said, "Have you seen other people from Kentucky? Everybody in Kentucky's addicted to Xanax."
which, my wife had a brother who died at a holler in Kentucky. He'd taken pills. Yeah. So the original Justified series was based in Kentucky. All around pills and hillbilly heroin and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
Yeah. But this girl, she's got her TikTok out there now. She's got her Instagram. So it looks like she's going to try to seize on her newfound stardom. Which, again, she's turned her life around. She says she's found God. She's got a job. It is sad. Both of her parents are in jail, so she kind of was led into this. But yeah, seems like she's doing really well. But this was the funniest story and everybody's welcome to go out there and look at it. It's pretty funny. Yeah,
it's on YouTube. Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, look, let me be 20 years younger. but yeah, they asked her. I guess she and her boyfriend started a business. I guess they own a bar or something. But asked, what the name of it is. She goes, "Yeah, normally I'd advertise for myself, but I've got so many stalkers now." I'm like, that's kind of the creepy end of it. You're not gonna make jokes and say, "Yeah, she's a really pretty girl and she gave a great interview," but there are people like, she's talking to me through the screen. I have to go meet this girl.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, but good for her for turning her life. What makes me laugh is she says, "Well, I quit doing drugs back in 2022, January 2022, when I turned my life around, and I had to quit smoking weed because I'm on probation." All right, you know what? Next to Xanax, I guess a little weed really isn't considered a drug.
No,
but you're in Kentucky. Get some good bourbon.
Jeez.
All right, so the final frontiers here, but you better be careful what you pack.
Oh, this is a funny story. So a Florida woman has filed a $100 million class action lawsuit against Frontier Airlines for allegedly charging the airline is not a budget airline, which I totally agree with her, and that it uses bait and switch tactics when it comes to baggage requirements and fees. Dave, I don't know if you've ever, I know you have never flown on Frontier before.
No.
But we did one time. We flew Frontier to Chicago, and we flew some what's the green? Oh, we flew Spirit coming back. Never, ever will I do that again. But what this lady's talking about is if you go online and look at Frontier and say Atlanta, Chicago, it may say $68. But then they want to charge you $12 for printing your ticket out. They want to charge you, they've got some kind of little size of your handbag that you can take on. And then if it's bigger than that, they charge you $50. They charge you $100 for your bag. So what she's alleging is after they get you for all these fees, they're really not a budget airline any longer.
Well, no, they charge you for a carry-on. What they allow you free is your personal item. Mm-hmm. Now, as we know from flying Delta, you're allowed to carry on in a personal item. Personal item is briefcase, laptop case, purse. Right. So that's what they're talking about with your free personal item. It's not a free carry-on, it's a free personal item. Yep. So that's going to be a purse is your personal item or whatever. And they have these bag sizers. And anybody who's been to the airport and any airline has seen the bag sizers. And usually it's at the check-in where you can say, is this qualified as a carry-on? Nobody uses them. I see people trying to cram.
Yeah, Frontier has them they have them at the gate, though, right? I mean, it's right before you get on the plane is what's happening with Frontier and Spirit. They're like right before you go down to the boarding, to get on it. They make you put your bag in there, and if it's too big, they're charging you right there at the counter. And it's creating a lot of frustrated customers from these airlines.
Yeah, that's something that I've strived to do in my business is I give one price, right, and that's it. I don't go back to the well. Now, if customer side, they decide they want to change something, go from a 3-ton to a 4-ton, obviously that's going to change the price.
Yep.
But if there's something that I didn't see when I did the quote, guess who eats that? Me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. That's the right way to do business. And when I fly Delta, I get my 2 free bags, check bags, and I do check bags. Yep.
It just growing up a Delta person. I mean, we just use check your bag, and I used to walk to the gate empty-handed before everybody carried laptops and stuff. You just walk to the gate empty-handed. I just had my boarding pass in my pocket or my seat request card. Back in the day, because I flew non-rev, and I walk up empty-handed. And
I didn't check a bag last week because it was so nice. I was on one of those planes, the Delta plane that has a middle boarding, and you've got Delta Comfort to the left and right. So my seat
that's a 757.
Yes, and if you sit on one of those seats, it's immediately beside that door. You can literally be off that plane and at your car almost before people are still deboarding. That's a great place to sit.
Oh, I love the 757 anyway.
I do too.
It's a very comfortable airplane to fly.
Yeah, very smooth airplane.
But anyway. But look,
I wouldn't be surprised if this woman had a chance on this lawsuit. I agree with her. There's too many fees. You don't know what you're paying for. And I think that's the gist of her lawsuit is you don't know what you're paying for when you book a ticket and you think it's a budget ticket and it turns out to not be what you paid for.
But what's her goal here? If her goal is to affect change in the industry, that may work. If her goal is to get money, she's not getting any money.
No, I mean this is class actions. You see, for $100 million, there's tons of people I think that would sign up.
99 million of that will go to lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. The lawyers are going to win here.
Yeah, lawyers win every case.
Yep.
Who wins a divorce? The lawyers.
Yep.
But if her plan is to really affect change, and now look, every member of the class may get a $50 voucher on Frontier or something like that.
Yep.
There'll be some settlement, something silly like that. But anybody who thinks they're getting involved in a $100 million class action lawsuit, they're going to walk away with any money. You're not walking away with any money. But it may cause Frontier to change their method of doing business.
Yep.
And if that's the goal, they may do a plea agreement and say, we're going to pay your legal costs and we're going to change our policy. This is the new policy, and then settle it right there and not go to court. Probably the wisest course of action for the airline. But these are the airlines that are having trouble staffing pilots because they don't charge enough to make enough money in order to pay their pilots enough.
Yep, that is true.
So I don't fly those budget airlines. I don't like being nickeled and dimed. I also am loyal to Delta because hell, they still pay my father's pension.
Yep, same here.
It's Delta's is Georgia's airline, so I typically stick with Delta if I can. I have flown other airlines, but I don't typically.
Yep.
So, what do we have for the Mule of the Week, Ken?
Well, a couple things, Dave. We've got a mule of the week is Greg Kazar. I think that's how you say his name. He's a representative from Texas. But before that, my wife was actually, she probably should have been the mule. And I was going to tell you the story before, but I'm going to leave it to now. So my wife went on a girls' trip last weekend. I think I told you about this, where she paid for all the rooms, got reimbursed for these rooms at a nice Marriott up in Greenville, South Carolina, which if our listeners haven't been to Greenville, that's just a super little town. Great couples trip, good downtown area. Find out this week she also booked rooms at the Hilton and forgot to cancel these Hilton rooms. So she calls me this week and says, oh my God, I've made the biggest mistake. And I had no clue what it was, Dave. And she says, Hilton has charged us $2,000 for rooms I didn't use. And she said, I was so scared to tell you. And look, she had my kids behind this. She told my kids, like, don't tell Dad what's going on, but I'm trying to get this charge taken care of. So she calls Hilton. They give her back half of the $2,000. So we got back $1,000. And then she's disputing the other $1,000, which I don't think we'll get anywhere with that other $1,000.
Nope.
But I mean, look, she felt terrible. I felt so sorry for her. I didn't get mad. Some people would have got mad over $1,000. Just one of those things, bad luck. But note to self, always have your wife's reservations with email alerts going to you so you don't wind up in this type of situation.
My wife's too cheap for that.
Oh goodness. But look, I know. But hey, look, back to the real mule of the week. I don't know if you saw this guy. He's a representative from Texas. He was supposedly protesting a new law that Texas is proposing. And he went on a 9-hour hunger strike in D.C.
Thirst strike.
Yeah. Water.
Thirst.
Yeah. Went for a 9-hour thirst strike. And people have just been tearing this guy apart. They're like, yeah, I go on a 9-hour thirst strike every night when I go to sleep.
Man.
What an attention. Yeah, I was about to say a bad word, but dude, I mean, these politicians, they will do anything for their 15 minutes in the spotlight.
I mean, Gandhi must be so proud.
I know.
I mean, he went on hunger strikes for months, down to becoming a skeleton. He could have handled the whole thing with not drinking water for 9 hours.
I don't know if you saw this guy too. So he's sitting on the Capitol steps. He's not drinking water. He's sitting out there and he's got an oxygen monitor on his finger. So they're actually monitoring this guy's oxygen levels while he sits on the Capitol steps. I mean, this may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard a politician do in my life. And that's saying a lot, right? But how do you go on a 9-hour thirst strike and think you actually did something?
I mean, 24 hours would be tough. But look, if you have surgery, you don't eat or drink anything after midnight.
No, right.
And you may not actually get your IV or get your drugs to go to sleep until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's almost twice as long as he went.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But truthfully speaking, they do put a monitor on you at some point when you get in the hospital bed. So this is a good time to remind you these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find relevant stories and other episodes over at thegeorgiavirtue.com. So, Beau Bergdahl, his conviction from his court-martial has been overturned.
Yep, vacated.
And look, he got a sweetheart deal for pleading guilty.
Mm-hmm.
He did not go to Leavenworth. He was dishonorably discharged, reduced to E1 private. He gets no veterans benefits. As dishonorable discharge, you are also considered a felon. You cannot buy a firearm. You cannot vote. You're a felon. But for what he did, walking away from his post in a combat zone, he could have been hung.
Yeah, this was back in 2009, right? So he was over in Afghanistan, walked off the post, was captured by the Taliban, and spent 5 years as their prisoner.
Yeah, and he was hoping the Taliban would welcome him with open arms. At first, they thought he got lost. Now, look, people were wounded, and I think there was a couple of people killed going looking for this guy.
Yep, there were. I remember that.
They thought he was captured. He wasn't captured. He walked away from his post. We traded, I say we, I believe Obama traded some Gitmo detainees for him.
Yep,
to get him back. And his father was one of those out there with the long Muslim beard and the beanie on and all this crap and all this stuff. And turns out, as the story comes out, he walked away from his post and he was prosecuted. And the judge, the judge in the military is typically looks a lot like a trial, but it's a court martial. It operates on different rules. Mm-hmm. But this judge had applied to become an immigration judge, a federal immigration judge, and it was found by the appeals court that could be considered a conflict of interest, even though they found none.
Yep. Yeah, I think this is ridiculous that this was vacated. Now, my question is, and I saw this post online, is will he be able to reapply to be in the military since this is his discharge or his discharge was vacated? I mean, can he just go right back into the military now if he wants to?
Yes.
I think he can. Yep. And get benefits.
At his former rank. It would be a horrible idea for him.
Oh, it'd be terrible. Yep.
It would not. You couldn't. He was infantry. You couldn't put him back onto an infantry squad. You could not send him back to the infantry. You just couldn't.
I just don't understand. They said there was no finding of actual bias in this case, but they still vacated it. That makes zero sense to me.
And this is appealable.
Good. I hope I don't know. Where does it get appealed to here? Was this a federal judge that appealed it or? No, he was a U.S. district judge. So yeah, it'd have to go to the U.S. appeals court. Yeah,
it'd have to go to whatever circus of appeals that they want to go to.
Yep.
Or that is in his area, but This is horrible for military justice.
It is.
Understand the military runs on discipline, military bearing. Look, I know there's obedience. You know what? When you get an order, you do your best to carry it out.
Yep.
And you don't say screw this and walk away from your post. And you certainly don't do it in a combat zone. I mean, I've heard of people going home on leave and then just never going back. Yep. But this put people's lives in danger.
Yeah, because they were out looking for him. Yep. And
they're going to restore his rank, all his decorations. I don't think he'll go back into the Army, but can he? Yes, he can.
I mean, will he get time served? This happened in 2009. He was captured 5 years later, 2014. So he convicted in 2017. I mean, the last 6 years, will he get like effectively where he was serving for the last 6 years and be able to retire at some point?
I don't think so, but you'd have to ask somebody who's a Judge Advocate General's office or something like that. But I think that what they'll do is they'll pay him through his ETS date, ending time in service date.
Gotcha.
So if his ended time of service was probably already passed because he spent so much time with the Taliban, so it's probably already passed. And you also know when you look at what the Taliban did, what other folks did to captives they had, cutting off heads and all that stuff. And Bergdahl comes out a little skinnier, but fine. Let me say he wasn't all that much of a captive.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hopefully they appeal it. Given our current administration who would be in charge of it, I doubt they will. This guy's just going to be able to get his VA status back, and first thing he's going to do is go file for disability, get 100% disability under PTSD and all that stuff. He'll get 100% disability and will never work another day in his life.
Yep.
So we got a dogpile on Rapsburger.
Yeah, his own party continues to pile up on him. So this previous week, 5 chairmen in the Georgia legislature, and that was Representatives John LaHood, Shaw Blackman, Todd Jones, Rob Leverett, and a vice chairman, Victor Anderson. They all wrote a letter to Raffensperger to take urgent action to launch a voter education campaign, increase training, and expand risk-limiting audits of election. This all comes on the back of Raffensperger deciding not to upgrade the Georgia's Dominion voting systems before the next presidential election.
And we covered that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we did. And a couple days ago, as this airs, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones was scheduled to meet with Raffensperger. So we'll have to find out what happened in that meeting. But the gist of this is Republicans are still mad that Raffensperger is not doing what they think he should in regards to securing Georgia's elections.
And what is Raffensperger's deal? I mean, he got reelected, and he got reelected because he had an R after his name. That's it.
Yeah, but he won the primary too. I mean, which was a big deal. I think nobody in Georgia thought he was going to win the Georgia primary against Jody Heist. I think he's doing a lot of stuff out of spite, to be honest. He says, Raffensperger at this point said they would criticize him for doing anything. They said, if I installed this software without thorough testing, I'd be criticized. If I don't do it, I'm being criticized. So he's taking the, woe is me. Whatever I do, I'm being criticized. And I think he's just digging his heels in. And
when all else fails, play victim.
Yes, I think that's what he's doing here. So, and look, this Raffensperger obviously wants to run for office after his next term ends. So I think he's trying to sort of play, I need probably 5 or 10% of the Democrat vote. I need the Republican vote. How can I kind of wait the middle here? That's what it appears. But yeah, they're going into next year's election, and these Dominion voting machines, which I don't think anybody in Georgia likes, have security vulnerabilities that they have not patched.
And they're not going to. Maybe after the next election. I don't know. I don't know what office Raffensperger could achieve at this point, because he can only do 2 Secretary of State, right?
Yeah, I think he's running for governor. I don't think
there's no way on God's green earth he can win governor.
You wouldn't have said he could have beat Jody Heist during the primary last year.
Well, his name recognition with what he did when he came on the scene and was it 18 or 16 when he stormed onto the scene, which was very impressive the way he did it.
It was money.
It was money. He paid.
Yes.
We were driving around one day, and all of a sudden there are Raffensperger signs everywhere. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, that's the sign ninja's work. I don't know if you know, but there is a guy up towards your area that goes by the nickname Sign Ninja, and these people hire him every year for elections because the Sign Ninja knows where he can put signs up. He already has all the permission from the landowners. So Raffensperger hires a Sign Ninja. All of a sudden, he gives them, whatever amount of money it is to put these signs up, and they are everywhere. I remember that. His signs just appeared.
Yeah, it was just an explosion. We're on the way to a Republican Party meeting in the south part of our county, and on the way for a friend of ours to announce his intention to run for office, and just all of a sudden, every 50 feet was a Raffensperger sign. I'm like, who the hell? I didn't know who the hell he was.
He was on TV a lot also. Yeah, so look, Raffensperger's got he's got people working in his office, which are good friends of mine. I'm kind of mixed on the job he's doing. And we're such a divided state now. Like, if Trump wins the nomination, if he wins next year, Georgia, look, everybody will be saying the Dominion voting machines did their job. If Trump loses next year, we'll have the same crisis again with Candace Taylor and everybody going around the state claiming the machines are rigged. So honestly, it doesn't matter who wins, and Raffensperger's in a bad spot either way.
Well, look,
not to let him off the hook any, but
his job is
no-win situation.
His job's not that damn tough.
No.
95% of it is run by bureaucrats.
Yes, it is.
All the licensing stuff that has his name on it.
Yeah, that's
he's not involved with license. It's all done by bureaucrats. It's all done by appointed boards. When it comes down to it, his policy stuff is going to be. He didn't pick. Now, in his defense, he didn't pick the Dominion machines.
No, he didn't.
His office didn't.
Yeah, no, we voted on it back in 19. Which
this was handed to him.
It was.
Yeah, this is what
was handed to him.
This is what we're going to use, and that's what happened. So that you can't blame him for the voting machines at all. But I do get the damned if you do, damned if you don't. With him ratting out Trump after the phone call, that's leading to what we believe to be an indictment coming in Fulton County. His name's mud, man. I don't see how another 2.5 years is going to clean that up and put him as a shoe-in for governor.
Nope, I agree.
All right, Kenny, as we're running along, you have any closing thoughts?
Hey, I can't believe I'm saying this, but school is starting again for fall of 2023. Just everybody stay safe going to school. I can't believe we're starting in July this year. It seems like we start earlier and earlier every year. But good luck to my teacher friends, and especially my wife who starts back next week, I'll say.
Boo. There's no good reason to have kids in school when it's 100-something degrees outside trying to cool those buildings, and the little guys can't even get on the slides because it's so damn hot.
I know.
Now, growing up in the 80s in Florida, they didn't care. I mean, you just lost the skin off the bottom of your legs. I mean, that's just the way it is. So we had on Thursday last week, I started getting phone calls, and I was working. It was hot. I'm literally laying in a basement wiring a furnace. My phone starts blowing up. And my wife calls me twice in a row, which never happens. She knows if she doesn't get me, I'm working. I know the same thing if I call her, she's working, she doesn't answer. I just leave her a message and say, I know you're busy. But when she calls twice in a row, the hospital was on lockdown. Every Paulding County police or sheriff's car was out there. A call came in of a shooter at the hospital.
Goodness, I didn't hear that.
It was a hoax. Now, I don't know if this is just some sick individual. Because, again, you're talking about a hospital. They lock the hospital down, which means you have to divert patients to other hospitals.
Yes, right.
So the first thing I heard was hoax. And I understand why the PAO here called it a hoax. PAO here, Ashley Henson's good man, good guy. I'm wondering if it wasn't a dry run to observe how the Paulding County law enforcement reacts to a call of an active shooter.
Yep.
From which ways do they enter the building? Which doors do they use? What's the procedure? How did the staff at the hospital react? And if it was a dry run, and this may be me reading too much Tom Clancy. But it sure did let a lot of intel out about how SWAT responds and how individual officers respond when they get the call that there's a shooter at the hospital. And it would be a similar response to a shooter at the school.
Yep.
So it gets the conspiracy wheels turning. So sorry for running late. Big thanks to Eric Cumby, who edits the awful audio that we send him. It turns into something somewhat listenable. Big thanks to my partner endeavor, Ken Pullen. I'm Dave Roberts. Talk to you next week.
Hope they won't shoot me down soon. Catch me howling at the moon.